students want to resume, they want to go back to the classroom. And we are calling on that government to do what is needful immediately.
Welcome back to SaharaTV. My name is Rudolf Okonkwo. This is the Skype call segment. This is when we give you the chance to give us feedback on some of the topics we've been discussing today. And today has been very, very interesting. And a lot of you are out there waiting for an opportunity to weigh in on this important topic about the state of the abducted kids, school kids in Nigeria. It has become an international story, and the reactions has been all over the place. So today we know that the president, Goodluck Jonathan, performed the groundbreaking ceremony for the Maritime University. That was a tweet by Ruben Abati. We also know that yesterday the Minister of Finance told the ABC News that she's tired of talking about our girls, bring back our girls. But right here at SaharaTV, we are not tired. And I know that our viewers at home are not tired. And we are going to discuss it from all the ramifications. Of course, the international media, they've been on the story, and our government officials have been appearing on the media. We extended the invitation to them to come and join us today and talk about this topic, but many of them avoided us. But I know you are there watching, and we are going to talk to you. But before we do that, we have a special guest. She's a columnist for the Sahara Reporters. She's also an attorney who practices in England, Wales, and also in Nigeria. I'm talking about the one and only Hannatu Musawa. She's going to join us, and we will have a discussion we have for a few minutes, and then we will take your Skype calls. I know that there are about 10 of you waiting for us, so I ask you to stay there. We'll come to you. Hannatu, welcome to SaharaTV. Can you hear me? Hannatu, welcome to SaharaTV.
Hi, Rudolf. How are you?
Good, good. I know that there is...
yeah, I can.
Okay.
I can hear you. Yes.
Okay, there's a delay, so we will...
Hi, Rudolf. How are you?
I'm good. So you are in Abuja. How is the environment in Abuja today in terms of the reaction of people in government to the outrage being shown by people around the world?
I mean, the reaction of government, obviously, as everybody would know, has rightfully been maybe a little, too little, and possibly some would say too late, to counter this very terrible, insurgency situation that we have in Borno State. But, it's unfortunate that it had to take a collective effort from, citizens, basically, mainly, people, youth on online forums, to be able to kind of garner international support that was able to kind of get the government to react. But, I think at this stage, the government has, a lot of people criticized maybe the government's reaction up until now. But I think at the point that we are now, there has been some response from government. I think the situation was one that was had already been allowed to be festered. It had become so desperate that I think even the government at some point did not know what to do. And it's very unfortunate that within the society, it had all the crimes that had happened, the bombings, we had almost become sensitized to it. And I think to a certain extent, government itself, in terms of its response, had also become sensitized, because we also, as citizens, were not kind of demanding better from the government. But I think at this point, from my point of view today, I do think the government has at least moved to a certain extent better, more than we would have expected had maybe the international community not gotten involved.
Now, what about the Nigerian newspapers? What are they reporting today? Because there are reports that some of the stories that do not add up. For instance, the Vanguard newspaper online was reporting that American soldiers in Nigeria arrested Boko Haram members. That obviously
Yeah.
is not correct. What are they reporting in Nigeria? And how are Nigerians in Abuja reacting to the international outrage over this?
I think Nigerians in Abuja and throughout Nigeria, specifically in the north and specifically in the northeast, are very somewhat relieved that the international community has gotten involved. I know for a fact, I spoke to two of the parents of the young girls that were abducted. I know there was a sense of desperation in the air, and all the people that I've spoken to that live in the very affected areas, you know, up until this particular situation had happened, had felt a desperation. People didn't know what to do. So I think people are kind of breathing a sigh of relief. But specifically the Nigerians that live in areas that are not, you know, in the kind of target areas, are still not, you know, that they still feel that they need to push further. And you still see the sit-ins, you still see the, you know, demonstrations, you'll still see the marches in different states. And I think in Ondo State there was one, and today in Abuja, there's the Bring the Girls Back campaign is sitting every single day until there's some sort of resolution. So I think people are really relieved that there's international help, because I think it had come to a stage whereby a lot of people felt that maybe the government didn't have the capacity or even the will to even react to even, you know, acknowledge that there was a problem, talk us of reacting to it. So there is a sigh of relief from the general public, and specifically in the northern eastern region.
Now, in an interview with CNN over the week, Dr. Doyin Okube said that there will be an information center that the government is opening in Abuja. Are you aware of that center? Has it been opened, and are they giving out information, and what kind of information are they giving out?
No, I know that there was a call from the general public that, you know, there needed to be an information center, and I know that the government did react and say that they would, you know, set up some sort of an information source. I've not yet seen any evidence of it, but I think it is vitally important that the government doesn't even have a choice but to set up an information source. And part of the problem has been that the government has been confronted with is because people have not been able to get the basic information that they've needed. And the government has been very blasé in giving out, you know, the information that they needed to give out. Of course, there are, in terms of their security operation, there is a lot of information that they can't give out. And part of my issue with, especially the general response from the public, was this call for the girls' parents to give the identities of the girls. And I think because the girls' parents did not give the identities of their children, there was this sort of, you know, doubt as to whether the children had been stolen, or whether, you know, it was something, you know, it gave birth to a lot of conspiracy theories, so to speak. But I spoke to two of the parents of some of the girls that had allegedly been taken, and what they said to me was, when the incident initially happened, they did inform the authorities and ask them to go after the girls. And the authorities did not really respond. So the parents had no choice but to take machetes and stones and sticks, and they went into the forest themselves. And when they got there, I think some of them saw some of the vehicles which had broken down, and they had come back and asked, you know, they had sent some people to come and speak to the authorities to tell them the location of the girls at that point. And I think the girls had been there together with the abductors for about 6 hours, in which they were even the girls were forced to cook for the abductors while they were fixing the vehicles. And, you know, the villagers, the parents kind of felt helpless. After a while, the abductors took the girls away. And when they came back, and, you know, the abductors had sent and told them that if they were going to pursue the girls, or if they give information about the girls, and the abductors were to come to know of this, that they would automatically, immediately kill the girls. So I think there was, because they didn't have confidence in the government, they didn't have confidence in the capacity and in the will of the government to kind of get their children back. Because prior, I don't know if you know, prior to abduction of the 200 girls, other children had been abducted and other boys had been killed in their hostels. And the response had been there was hardly any response from government. So they didn't feel confident enough to give information about their children. And I was actually outraged when a lot of Nigerians, even of very high standing, were demanding for the identities of the children, because you can understand as a parent, you know, how the parents felt. And of course, now that, you know, they see that there's an international response here, they feel a lot more comfortable, and they're able now, I do understand that they've given the identities of all their children that have been missing.
Now, I don't know if you had a chance to watch some of the reactions of government officials when they were talking to international media. I'm talking about people like Doyin Okupe and the information minister, Rabram Mako. They appear to be on the defensive, and Nigerians all slammed them for their performances. What is your own take on the way they reacted to the foreign press?
You know, I think the way they reacted to the foreign press was, you know, you can look at it in two ways. Yes, they were defensive, there's no doubt, and they have every right, every need to be defensive, because their reaction was one that was frowned upon. I mean, their reaction to, at the very basic level, was really very bad. There was for 2 weeks after these girls had been abducted, there had not been any proper, position taken by the government. And, at the time, the movement started and the international, media got involved in it. I think there was a lot of pressure on the government. I think the day that the international media came, and of course, together with the spotlight of the world was on Nigeria because of, the World Economic Forum. So I think that time that both Doyin Okupe and Labaran Maku spoke, they were under a lot of pressure. And I would understand from a human point of view how, probably their performance was not up to par, you understand. However, at the same time, of course they would be defensive, because when you do something wrong, even as a child, and you're called, the natural reaction would be defensive. They had to be defensive because that was the response to their non-response of something that needed a response, so to speak. Yeah.
All right. We take a break and then come back with our Skype call as well. Let me ask you before we go on break. Now, there are a lot of newspapers, international newspapers like the New York Times, the Economics magazine, and they're all writing editorials that are very, very critical of the government of Jonathan. How are the people in Abuja taking that kind of editorials coming from these respectable newspapers abroad?
Yeah, I think people feel very encouraged, and because generally a lot of people feel that the government has not really been held accountable for a lot of the complacency that it's had in terms of the during this whole insurgency. But for me, as an individual, as a as a Nigerian, as a northerner, as a Muslim, as a Fulani woman, I think that beyond even criticizing the government, I would want to hold northern leaders more than anything to task. To be honest with you, yes, Jonathan's government has the main responsibility of protecting lives. This situation that we see play out in the northeastern part of the country is is a situation that has been festering for a long time. And even though the responsibility of what has happened and bringing back the girls lies on the government of the day, which is Jonathan administration, however, I do believe that the northern leaders themselves have to take accountability for what has happened. As a northerner, I'm so outraged. I'm so disgusted, to be honest with you, that since this thing happened, many of northern leaders that we've had or that we have find it very convenient when you're talking about child marriage or when you're talking about, implementation of Sharia. But then when a very important issue such as this comes, everybody remains stump. It's it's so disheartening to me. And yes, of course, we can blame Jonathan's government, and I also hold them accountable. But I think that as Northerners, that we have to really take accountability for what is happening right in our doorstep. The North, since I would say since 1999, but more since 2009, has been a breeding ground for this kind of extremism, and we've all known this. And for a long time, many of us, or many people within the society, we take this. It's almost like we want to put this bobbing heads of in the sand, where we pretend that nothing is happening, and we have this transferred aggression where we're transferring everything to Jonathan. Of course, Jonathan has a responsibility to bring back our girls, and Jonathan has a responsibility as the CNC, as the head of state, as the president, to protect lives. However, honestly, Northern leaders, and especially religious leaders, the religious ulama, the Muslim ulama in Nigeria specifically, you see reactions from, foreign Muslim ulamas, foreign imams. Everybody has weighed in on this issue, but where are the voices of the people who have the ability to speak to to actually have some sort of that have been in a position to do something for people in the Northeast or people in the North. The North we are our own undoing, and I, as a Northerner, as a Fulani woman, have to say this. And I have to say this because I have to be in a position to call our Northern leaders to order, because nobody has found it proper to come out, not only to defend these girls, but to also take a position, proper position on insurgency and terrorism in the North. And this is, for me, this is where I would prefer to focus my strength, rather than join in the bandwagon and speaking against the government, which I've done so for over 10 years, and I would do so. But I think more than anything, even when they rescue these girls, we're left with a situation that we have allowed to breed. Where are the people who asked for Sharia? We're not practicing Sharia in the States, where we were told, they're going to implement Sharia. But now that, we have a situation that we need to confront, every Northern leader that has been part and parcel of the decay that has brought us down to our knees does not find it convenient to speak now. It is a crying shame, I have to say.
All right, Hannatu, just stand by. We will have you again when we come to the second part, and then we will take Skype callers. They can ask you questions if they have any, and we discuss this topic. We are going to discuss the media chat by the president on Sunday, and of course, the big video from Patience Jonathan. We are going to talk about all these things. So stand by, and we'll be right back.